Only through me can you achieve a power greater than any Jedi.
Ladies and gentlemen, as was foretold, the next major Stellaris expansion coming, Shadows of the Shroud, will be released on September the 22nd. That is in just under 3 weeks' time. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the brand new Shroud Political chart. Yeah, it's a bit crazy, we'll dive into that in a moment. We're going to be confirming the existence of hive and machine psionics. Yes, that's coming. We're going to be talking about all three of the brand new origins. One of them is basically the Jedi / Grey Knights, it seems, depending on exactly what's going on behind the scenes. Another is a Gestalt machine intelligence origin. And the final origin may just bring about the end of reality, but we'll get to all of that a bit later. Let's start by going through the detailed feature list for this new DLC. The headline feature is the new reworked Psionic Ascension path. It's also unlocked by Utopia, but I assume you don't get all of the nice goodies like the situation and some of the other bits and pieces if you don't have this DLC. There are the three new origins: Endbringers, Mind Wardens, and Shroud Forged, and 6 new Civics. There is an enhanced psionic situation culminating in advanced psionic government forms, a new system for delving into the Shroud itself, which includes deeds, accords, callings, and covenants. There are psychic auras and psychic seals. I'm getting strong paladin vibes now. New patrons and entities to discover in the Shroud. We'll get to some of those new entities in a moment. And expanded content for old acquaintances. There is an expanded end of the cycle, that's in bold red text because it's dangerous. New psionic species traits. That's pretty cool. We're getting new traits to go with the psionic portraits, a new species pack that reflect the change within once their psionic potential has been unleashed. They kind of get a bit purpley around the eyes and they glowing with psionic energy. There are 2 new ship sets, the Mind Warden and Psionic ship set. Honestly, the Mind Warden ship set, we saw that last week, and that is probably my new favorite ship set. There are psionic diplomatic rooms, a city set, an advisor, music tracks, and apparently even more. If you like the sound of that feature list and you'd like to pre-purchase Stellaris Shadows of the Shroud DLC and also support this channel, you can do so by using the link down in the description below, which will take you over to the Paradox store where you can pre-purchase this DLC. You can also head over to the Paradox Interactive store yourself and buy absolutely anything from that store if you use our code MONTUPLAYS at the checkout. Then 12.5% of your purchase will go towards supporting this channel. Let us all delve a little into the Shroud. You're going to need to open your mind to encounter the expanded psionic content, which includes an Ascension path situation like the biological, cybernetic, and synthetic ascensions, a tradition tree overhaul, and brand new advanced governments. You can encounter strange new patrons as you attune and delve. Deeds and callings will lead to accords and covenants. Auras will grow. These are the tools of those who attune. A lot of words there. Not quite sure what it all means yet, but let's dive in deeper to find out what the heck is going on. The Shroud seems to be quite different. This is the brand new UI interface. Instead of having to go into the contacts to make contact with the Shroud, you'll get a UI element for this, it seems. There is a delve button on the top right that is in the center of our brand new political alignment chart. Yes, it seems the deities of the Shroud are like a compass face or a political alignment. The further north you go, the further you get into the unknown domain. Assuming that the colors are matching here, to the east we're going to get the Cradle of Souls, to the west the Eater of Worlds, and the south Composer of Strands. It seems as well that you get points towards these. We're getting 244 out of 1,000 on the Eater of Worlds and minus 244 out of 1,000 on Cradle of Souls. I'm assuming because as this GIF moves, there is an Empire icon that seems to move as well. And as it does, Composer of Strands moves from 377 to 477. that we can either get points in Eater of Worlds or Cradle of Souls, but not both at the same time, and the same is true with Composer of Strands or Unknown Domain. Also, I just want to point out here, the Cradle of Souls is an entity that we've never heard of before. There are also minor patrons. As we explore the domains, we can discover other entities, minor entities. Exactly what they do, I don't know yet either. We can also see here Psionic Aura is mentioned. A Psionic Aura affects all fleets and colonies within the system it occupies. There are some more tooltips later on that we can look at, but oh boy, Psionic Auras look like they might be very, very strong. The text here reads, while pledging yourself to a patron is one path to power, others chart their own course towards mastery of the unknown. Earlier the devs mentioned covenants are still a thing. I'm assuming that's probably similar to how it used to be, that you can pledge yourself to one god, one shroud entity over others. Maybe we can have multiple covenants if this political alignment chart is anything to go on, though maybe you can only be aligned or covenant with an entity when you're in that zone. I wonder what the central zone is, if we can do something there. Maybe that's charting our own course, our own path to power. Very excited by the potential this offers. Let's dive in and find out even more. The devs also have a number of icons to show us here. So there are still 4 entities, it seems: the Eater of Worlds, the Composer of Strands, the Cradle of Souls, and a final entity which has, I'm guessing its symbol is held out hands. Whatever it is, it's opposite to Composer of Strands in our alignment chart. Probably there's that unknown domain up the top, unless that's always an unknown domain and going in there causes crazy things to happen. I don't know. We've also got 2 other symbols, the one on the far left and the far right. The far right looks like a spiraling vortex of some kind. That symbol crops up a little later on with end of the cycle, so maybe that's the symbol for the end of the cycle entity. The one on the far left though, I think it either looks like a robot with kind of wide arms, it's a head stance, or maybe that's a central eye of some sort with a drill going down. Not sure. Maybe it's something to do with the Animator of Clay, if the Animator of Clay has returned in some fashion, or maybe it's got something to do with something else. Really unsure there. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What are your theories? Many voices will now be as one. This is news that I think a lot of people have wanted for a very long time. Gestalt empires, both hive minds and machine intelligences, will be able to pursue psionic ascension. Ladies and gentlemen, psionic hives will now be a thing. Psionic machines is back and it's legal, and oh my goodness me, I think a lot of people have waited a long time for this. I'm not sure, but I'll assume that also individualist machines can pursue psionic ascension, but maybe they've locked it off. Maybe you have to be a Gestalt consciousness or a bio meat bag in order to go down the psionic route. We'll have to find out later. You can of course see this with one of the new government type psionic nexus here on a Gestalt consciousness hive that is clearly psionically ascended. The leader has a psionic trait. They have the gift of the composer. Maybe that is the covenant alignment thing. Maybe it's something else. We've also got an event here, XT489. I'm assuming that's a robot, has been discovered with psionic powers. It's a class 4 psionic unit, so clearly psionic robots, psionic hives, they are now possible, ladies and gentlemen. What a time to be alive. And it seems robots will get, I'm assuming, all the same tools as regular biologicals. Maybe they'll have their own special unique path for Gestalts that is a little bit different, a different tradition, that often is the case, but it seems here we can commune with ruinous presences. That seems to be the name of the presence that the XT489 Eliminator has found. Pretty sure that's the genocidal robot race from one of the regular races, one of the default empires. Now let's dive into one of the new origins. The Shroud can exert its influence in many ways. In the Shroud Forged origin, an architect of sorts has taken interest in some of your drones. Cut off from the central machine intelligence, the demands of these units are ever increasing. Interesting. I remember there being a reference once with the animator of Clay dig site to disconnected drones, I want to say. Maybe this has something to do with the animator of Clay, maybe it's another entity entirely. It's noted here that Gestalt Hive Mind Authority does require either Utopia or Biogenesis, and Gestalt Machine Intelligence Authority requires Synthetic Dawn or Machine Age to play with. But you can play Machine Intelligence if you're playing as the Shroud Forge, so you're not locked out of this content if you don't have Synthetic Dawn or Machine Age. But Synthetic Dawn and Machine Age are highly recommended for a more comprehensive machine experience. I assume you don't get as many traits or something. That's kind of annoying actually, that you can play as machines through this DLC, but you don't get access to most of the machine stuff. But I guess that's just Paradox DLC policy. Now we have a whole host of civics. These are the new civics. There are 6 new civics coming, of which I think 3 can be used with a machine intelligence, 4 can be used with a hive mind, and all 6 can be used with regular biological empires. These are the symbols. The names of these are Chosen, Entropy Drinkers, Experimental Sentencing, Secret Societies, Superstitious Belief, and Tankbound. I'm assuming the little image of a stickman in a box is Tankbound. Otherwise, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe Experimental Sentencing, which is also called Judicial R&D or Corrective Consciousness, is the Science Beaker. Secret Societies and Influential Cartel is probably the Illuminati symbol. The bottom left, we've got a 4-leaf clover. Maybe that's Superstitious Beliefs. And that leaves the central icon and the icons on the bottom right to either be Entropy Drinkers or Chosen. Not really sure which is which. I'm thinking the middle one could be Chosen and the bottom right could be Entropy Drinkers, but I guess we'll find out more closer to the time. What do these civics do? Absolutely no idea yet. We'll have to assume they have a lot to do with Psionic Ascension, but maybe not. I mean, Experimental Sentencing sounds like it's got more to do with kind of research than it does with psionics. Entropy Drinkers are also called corporate vampires. Maybe we can roleplay as vampires now. We can get a civic to become vampires. Wow. Chosen, I'm guessing, is it's like Imperial Cult, but maybe better, more impactful, I could say. I don't know. We'll have to find out. The next origin coming to us is the end of the cycle as an origin, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, this allows you to start off the game either guaranteed to have end of the cycle or diving into this end of the cycle a little later on. Let's read more and find out. Power, knowledge, and wealth beyond measure are yours for the taking, and you already know the cost. Endbringers is a challenging origin that can bargain to delay the inevitable and acquire even more benefits from this unfathomable pact. So basically it seems to be end of the cycle where we can also delay payment, if you will, until some later date. Not sure how we're going to do that, but I bet it's not going to be nice. A Realm of Madness is the event we have here on your screen. Research into the recently discovered field of psionics has confirmed the existence of hitherto unseen dimensions of reality, to which our minds are the gateway. Beyond this veil lies a realm of chaos that we struggle to understand. From within the depths, a voice beckons. Its promise is not of salvation, but of a new beginning. To wield its unknowable power would be to abandon all we were, and to forge a fate inscribed in the fabric of madness itself. It is time, says the voice. Then it seems you can form a covenant, or maybe you start the game with a covenant, with the end of the cycle. A declaration rings out, "You know my name," the culmination of our voyage to the stars. The answer to centuries of questions, it is here. The end of the cycle compels us. Our covenant is formed. The end begins. Pain, writhing, certainty. As the words fade, our fate is sealed. We see it now. A galaxy rendered silent, saturated in the inevitability of the aura of the end. Ooh, yes. This comes with an aura as well. I love it. The devs want to note that the end of the cycle will still remain available to players who own Utopia. Shadows of the Shroud will also grant access to this feature if you don't own Utopia, and exclusive new content that expands upon it. So you can still, I believe, get the end of the cycle if you don't buy this. I think that means you can also still do a basic Psionic Ascension of some sort if you just have Utopia. But now, you can do more. Let's dive in and look at our alignment. Now, I am assuming that if we take End of the Cycle, this is what our Shroud window looks like. However, I'm not sure, but I'm also guessing that it's possible we can take a Covenant with the End of the Shroud without taking this Origin. I don't know if this is still the same window that you will see. Clearly, there are a bunch of abilities. Around the ring on the outside, it seems we can unlock multiple different abilities. I don't know what we have to add together to unlock those. Maybe it's something like Become the Crisis with Menace. But then we've got abilities that cost things like energy. Pops. Is that pops? 3,000 pops. Wow. An Envoy. One of them costs a war, maybe? Or maybe when we get to those levels? No, that wouldn't make sense because it goes 10, 5, 15, 20k in energy. So, yeah. Clearly there's some powers things going on. There's a bar filling up. I assume when it gets to the end, maybe that means we die or maybe we've completed it. I don't know. But the important thing to look at here, the thing I want to draw your attention to very, very importantly is the Aura of the End. Remember, we found out earlier that auras affect all systems and all ships. This seems to affect one of 591 systems. We eventually maybe want to get that up to as many as possible, to all 591. I'm a bit confused. I thought a 600-star galaxy had 600 stars. This only has 591, so yeah, that's confusing. But hey, it tells us how many systems are affected. The positive effects seem to be on the left and the hostile or negative effects on the right. Maybe if we upset the End of the Cycle, we get the negative. Or maybe this is just what happens if anyone else gets this aura in their space. Remember, we did find out earlier in the week, or maybe it was last week, that different auras can affect our neighbors and spread out into the galaxy. Positively, we're going to get plus 100% resource output. I think that's 3 times. So maybe that's plus 300% resources from jobs. And then we're getting minus 30%. I want to say that's upkeep. Not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure that's minus 30% upkeep. When it comes to hostile, that's plus 60. Maybe that's plus 60 to fire rate or bombardment. Something like that. And then minus 18 stability. Wow. That would hurt me if I was a neighbor. And plus 36% to upkeep. I'm assuming that's upkeep from jobs rather than pop upkeep. So overall, this is basically the same effect as you used to get, plus 100%. But it seems like it's going to spread out as an effect and also hurt our neighbors / enemies, or maybe ourselves if we upset the End of the Cycle. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We will be finding out more information about this new Origin and the End of the Cycle in general in a future dev diary, but I'm very excited to find out what all of these powers are. I cannot wait. The third of the 3 new Origins this DLC is bringing us is the Mind Warden Origin. Okay, so what on earth is that? Well, we've seen the Mind Warden ship set. It's one of the ship sets. Apparently it's also an Enclave, and it's an Origin. Freedom is meaningless without sovereignty of thought. Shadows of the Shroud introduces the Mind Wardens, available either as an established Enclave sworn to combat and contain psionic threats, or as a challenging Origin when you work to establish the first Mind Warden order. What are the Mind Wardens? Well, let's read about what they have to say. The Shroud can best be described as a dimension of reality that exists beyond ordinary perception. It is composed entirely of harmful, quote, psionic energy. It touches every part of our physical galaxy, yet many do not actively perceive it. The Shroud's energy can be manifested in the physical realm through the cognitive activity of sentient beings. These forces are extremely dangerous and unpredictable. Ensuring your population's safety requires protective measures against the Shroud. To that end, we can provide help. So they're going to tell us something about Zro, they're going to help us with crime, we can tell them of a good psionic target, and we can ask them more about what the devil the Shroud actually is, if they are an Enclave. The vibe I'm getting here is Crusaders against psionics. I'm believing that the Mind Wardens don't like psionics whatsoever. They call psionic energy harmful. Now, question. Are they psionic themselves? Is it a hypocritical order? Or are they, have they purely rejected the psionic? This is one of the new portraits from the psionic species pack that's part of this DLC. So I question whether the Mind Warders themselves are psionic. Maybe this is basically our galaxy's equivalent of the Jedi, and they are going to bring balance to the Force by killing off all of the Sith, i.e. anyone else that uses psionics that isn't them, or maybe they are simply on a crusade to wipe out all psionics anywhere. Either way, I'm not convinced these are the good guys. Not even a little bit. Unless the Shroud really is that harmful, if it's basically the warp from 40k, then I support our Grey Knight brothers over here. And if you're enjoying this video, please pledge yourselves to the Mind Warden Order and protect the like button from psionic transgressions. In 2 days' time on Thursday, we're going to go through more details about the psionic Ascension situation, explore the new Shroud panel in further depth, discuss how to influence the relationships you have with entities you may find, and also show off in detail the superstitious beliefs Fortune Enterprise / Zodiac Nexus / Pattern Finder set of Civics. Oh, and by the way, what is on your screen right now, those are the advanced government types. Clearly there are two, just like with the cybernetic and synthetic authorities, these advanced government authorities have two different paths you can go down. I'm seeing a symbol that's repeated a lot of times in the Civics. Maybe that's an authority tied to one of the Civics, or maybe that Civic has something to do with all of those authority types. What that symbol is, that diamond shape, I guess we're just going to have to find out soon. Don't forget, if you want to pre-order Stellaris Shadows of the Shroud, or maybe pick up the entire Season 9 expansion pass, or buy anything at all from the Paradox Interactive store for any of their games or DLCs, you can do so using our link down in the description below, or heading over to the Paradox store yourself and using our code MONTUPLAYS at the checkout to also support this channel. If you want to find out more about Shadows of the Shroud, see the new species portraits, and unlock a few more teasers, then you should click the video on screen now.